coaching. And then the next year, they were going for the state record for most wins in a row, consecutive wins.
Yeah.
And then we beat them, and then the next year, Graham
Doggermeyer, your coach?
No, Harry Joe.
Harry Joe Parker. Harry Joe Barbara. Rod Moore.
Is that when he flopped down on the 50-yard line and did that?
Who's that?
That was Dobbemeyer.
Dobmeyer did that when we had, yeah, he was on.
That was 1980. That was 83. I was
Schmidt ran the second half kickoff back
80.
for a touchdown.
That was my boy's senior year.
Was it?
80.
Yeah, Dobmeyer. Him and JD got into it.
Yeah, I'll never forget.
You guys were beating us really bad at Heath, and it was late in the game, and we got the ball back, and then JD put his first team defense back in, and Doggy went berserk. But Catholic kind of always did that. They always want to keep at it. If they haven't been scored on, that's it. They like keeping it that way.
Yeah, he was good.
But that was fun. That was fun to do stuff to each other. Just kept the rivalry going there. Well, 5:30. Rob, floor is yours. First thing on the agenda is leave pickup. Dave's here, so we can ask Dave all sorts of questions. Dave, we're going to put him on the hot seat. But I know that Dave has reported that we had less leaves than we had the previous years. Where were the heaviest areas at this year?
Forest Hills, Fieldson, a few sections in Southgate. Other than that, it was just kind of sporadic around this year.
Was it the mayor's house that had the big heavy bags?
Yes.
No.
If I was able to get them up the hill to the street, they were all right.
That actually wasn't my section of town, so I can't.
Okay.
Are you going to pick up tomorrow, Dave?
No. We're done. All right, so leaf pickup was a little bit less than what it had been in the previous years. I know we've been repairing some roads, Irving Wick West, over there by Keller Drive. We repaired that. There's people come out of what's that place called?
The Masonic
Masonic
Lodge.
Lodge. Do they come out of there, or is it from the truck traffic, something, or the mailman, or what?
They had a water main break there.
Oh,
They cut into the road a little bit. So we usually repair anything that the water department tears up because they don't have the facilities to repair the road to our satisfaction.
And we're still passing some things on Thornwood Drive.
Yeah.
Then we had an area down there, Johnny called me, Geller called me one day, down there by Seminary, that people pull off the road down there somewhere, and there's some big potholes down there. But it's off the road. Did we fill some of those in?
We tried. It was so wet. We had to let it dry up. I drove by it today. It's still wet. We can put a little bit more in it to try and get the holes away from the edge of the road, but there's not going to be that much more we're going to be able to do.
So we are still
Are
repairing
these
some
holes
roads.
that are in the asphalt or holes in the berming?
They are holes in the berm on our right of way.
Okay. Okay.
People pull off there, well, I don't, for whatever. I think even our police sit there sometimes. People pull around there. No, they might turn around there. I don't know. We've also purchased a new plastic tank for salt water for one of our trucks. We're going more of the plastic tanks than the metal tanks. They can hold up better over time. So, is that in now, Dave? The plastic tank will be.
We're still plumbing it in, but we'll have it ready tomorrow.
Is it supposed to snow tomorrow?
I hope not.
I hope not. So we're getting things ready for winter. Hopefully it holds off. This week looks good, so every day we don't have winter, that's a great day. Speaking of winter, which I think will take up most of our time tonight, will be the mayor when we bring up and talk to Doug some on snow plow procedures with trying to save money to the city as far as salt and overtime goes. So we are open to discussion on, we'll take the lead of what we want to do. Decide how we're going to plow or what we're not going to plow or what steps we're going to take.
First, I'd just like to say, Bob and Dave, I think the main thing that we've got to definitely stay concerned with is safety of people. And, hey, I don't know how you get done what you get done. Got 6 guys, yourself, and then we do have the ability to call people in from the parks department. And I was just wondering, is there some way that we could, go about things a little different, where, cost, just hope it don't snow. That's the main thing.
We had like
Just
last
have a
winter, it'd be great.
light winter like we had last year, so. Okay, what's your feelings, gut feeling?
Well, the first of all, before Dave answers that, I mean, and I've had discussions with the mayor that, it's always been Dave's job, my job since I've been in the streets, and every other person in the streets is to make the streets look as good as we can. And that's pretty much how we've always went through things. But I think if we're gonna change some things, then we're gonna need some direction from you guys on what exactly you want us to do. Because we're kind of trained to do things where everything looks great, the way we've always been known for. And if you don't want those things to happen in that way, then you need to kind of give us some suggestions, and then we might be able to say, well, we may not be able to do this, but we can do this, or, but I think you need to give us a little direction before we kind of answer that question maybe.
I think the general parameters that we need to look at this problem through are this. In the past, we have been able to do an extremely effective job removing ice and snow from all city streets without regard to the expense in overtime, fuel usage, and materials, salt and brine. We have got to be more cognizant of our financial, our revenue shortfall. And we have to have the expense of our snow and ice removal, be a larger factor in what we can do. I know, Dave, that the street department over the past 10 years or so is down 2 or 3 guys compared to what used to be in the department. And despite that, Heath has maintained, I believe, the highest level of snow and ice removal on its streets that anybody could hope for. Our financial situation is not going to allow us to continue to maintain that high of a level of service. And so, I don't mean to kind of put you on the hot seat, but out of everybody sitting in this room, you're the most knowledgeable as to what we currently do, how we can change that to be more cost effective, perhaps at the expense of, performance. And also, you probably have the best perspective as far as what other areas in Licking County and beyond, how they tackle this problem. So if you could provide information, input for us, that would be fantastic.
Well, first of all, in my opinion, when we get a snowfall, we treat everything once, whether we put rock down or whether we put ground. That breaks the barrier, the gripping power of the ice to the streets, and it makes it easier to clean up at wait times. And And in my opinion,
You do that before it snows, or once you've been?
I personally, I don't believe in pre-treating because to me, I think it's a waste of time.
Okay.
Because what we put down, if you put it down too soon, it's going to evaporate. And even though you do get some residual off of the brine, it takes moisture for the rock to work. So there's no point in putting rock salt down on a dry street. And if you put the brine down, and if you wait too long, the traffic will dry it up. So, and that's just my personal opinion. I know there's other people that differ from that. But my opinion, I think you need to treat everything at least once, in which we usually do. And then if the storm continues, depending on the rate of snowfall and how fast it's coming down, how long the storm's gonna last, we just don't keep treating until, you know, everything's said and done. We get everything done once, and then usually, as the snow builds, we switch to a plowing mode. And we will plow off the snow to keep most everything. And the hills, we will usually treat or retreat to keep them navigatable, because you're gonna have to keep your hills clear. Regardless of what you do, you're gonna have to keep your hills clear. And then as the snow lessens up, then we go into cleanup mode. We will work one section where we're at, we will plow the streets off, and then we treat them. Then we go to the next section, we plow, treat. We will do that all the way through the whole city until we get done. Usually, if it takes over 24 hours, we will work the full 24 hours and do whatever we have to do.
That's what we've done in the past.
That's what we've done in the past.
Okay. What do other cities, or what do other areas do?
I'm not 100% on all this. I do know that the county will usually treat their streets with a combination of pea gravel or number 9 gravel, and it used to be salt water, but I don't know if they mix any other stuff with it now. And they will initially treat their roads, and in the same way, when they're out, if it starts to build up or whatever, they will usually go out, and they have one guy that will work like a 30 square mile area. And so, you know, it's going to take him a long time. So their streets will build up, but that's just the way they do it. They don't do it like us, like on 79. We will gang plow 79, because you can't send one truck out there to plow 79, because it takes approximately a half hour to 45 minutes for us to travel just one way. So by the time you go one way and come back and you plow the center, traffic behind you has already got it messed up again. So we have to gang plow and plow everything all one direction, then we turn around and come back. And that's the best way to clean that. And then usually as we're plowing, we will also treat to keep it going. Now the county will usually, like I say, they put their mixture down and they let the traffic work on it for a while, and then if the snow gets too thick, they will come out and they will plow, and on their way back, then they treat again. And they don't treat a lot, and then usually on the next day when they get done, they will usually plow back and treat, and then they're done. Now what Newark does, I'm not for sure. I know Newark has, after January 1st, they run a 2-shift type of deal, and with the amount of people that they do and the amount of road frontage they got about 3 times more lane miles than we do. So we actually do more lane miles than what Newark does per person. And Newark streets look like they do because of that. And you know, how they run it, that's their business. But I know they usually try to keep 16 clear, and then once they get done with 16, they go to the State Route 13, and then once they get 13 done, then they start with the 21st, the West Church, and they have all these guys out in their different areas kind of working around doing that. But when they go to 2 shifts, they've only got approximately 5 people, I believe, per shift that does it.
Dave, let me stop you, because I want to make sure that what I heard was what you said. Did you say that per person, per snowplower,
Yes.
okay, per snowplower, we have more street miles per snowplower than Newark has?
We do more.
No,
We-
no, I want to hear. it's not-
Newark has 3 times as many lane miles of roadway to clear than what we do.
Right.
So per person, they have more mileage per person to do than what we do.
Okay. Okay.
I probably said that backwards when I explained it.
Okay. That's
They,
what I was
they
asking.
have more mileage to do than what we do.
Okay. Okay. And they run 2 8-hour shifts then, Monday through Friday, starting on January. What is it, Tim? You shaking?
They actually go to a third shift. They have a crew that's available 24 hours, so they don't pay overtime. In other words, if it snows at midnight, there's already guys there. If it snows at 2 in the morning, there's already guys there and stuff. And then what they do is they either hold a shift over or bring a shift in early if we get like a major snowfall or something like that. But the guys do get a shift differential. They get a little bit more money, but they're always there. And if it's nice weather where there's no snow, no nothing, then they're out with like the patch box, patching potholes and things like that and stuff. So
They still have 3 shifts all
Yeah.
winter long,
yeah, they
even if it's not snowing. They have 3 shifts.
yeah, they go until like it's March or sometime or another.
What's that, 3 to a shift or something?
No, there's 5. I forget.
Yeah, more than that. More than
Yeah, they do it kind of. I don't know how to explain exactly what they do. It depends on how many people they have and stuff. But they work the shifts so that there's always a set crew, and then you can either, like I said, bring the next crew in early or keep the other crew over, so you double.
But
And
then you're paying overtime.
then you're paying overtime. Yeah,
Yeah.
If they
So
go
you're
8 hours.
January, February.
It's actually
March.
December. I think it's December. I think it starts in December, maybe. I'm not sure exactly when they start the 3. the
And
different
so
crews.
they pay shift differential, kind of like what we would do in the police department,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay. So then they're paying that shift differential. Are the number of people on the crews even? Is it
Oh, it may
five
be
five
like
or
one. It may be
4
one.
4 4?
It may be 1 or 2 different.
Okay.
I mean, there may be a few more because it's hard to say because they have like mechanics that work in the, working on the vehicles and stuff, and so they have to have a mechanic because the thing breaks down at night. So,
Okay.
And that's something else that
Yeah.
happens to us. If one of our trucks breaks down, that guy's going and fix his own truck.
Yeah.
and then it takes you off the road for that
Yeah.
amount of time.
Yeah.
And then during the day we have parks department, cemetery workers, the engineering people, the water department, different people that have traffic control that all have like trucks with blades and stuff like that. So if it's one of those snows that's more than 4 inches, then you have a whole bunch more people. But usually, unless it's an emergency, they won't call us out for overtime. It'll be just during the regular work day. And we hit the residential streets and stuff.
Dave, how feasible do you think something like that? I know that we generally call the 3 employees that we have in the parks department out for a snow removal when there's a snowstorm coming, right?
Yes.
We call them out along with the other street department employees, right?
Yes, but only 2 of those guys will only come in to plow because I don't have enough big trucks for them to run.
Okay.
And this year that may or may not be feasible because I'm actually down a truck because it's just unsafe to drive.
And we take our own truck and we
Right.
try to do City Hall and the parks, Geller Park, Hoback Park, City Hall, try to keep those open
Okay.
during that time.
So Dave, did you just say that we in recent years we have been a truck down, but right now we are 2 trucks down? Is that what you just said?
No, we are actually 1 truck down. I could be 2 trucks down if we leave a tank off one of my other dump trucks that we normally use when we chip. We need a dump truck to blow the chips in.
Uh-huh.
If I put a tank in that dump truck, that leaves me without a truck to put chips in unless I pull tank in and out, in and out, in and out, or modify our smaller 1 ton and put a bigger box, but then would be dumping more chips more frequently. If and when we would get a chance to actually get out and do the chip.
Okay. And that's you're talking about like filling potholes and things like that.
No, I'm talking about trimming trees.
Oh,
I'm talking trimmer trees, which is usually what we do during the winter if we aren't filling potholes or plowing snow or doing any of that. That's usually what we'll do.
okay, all right. So, how feasible do you think it would be, Dave, for us to go to something similar to what Newark does, even if it's, say, just 2 shifts, just 2 8-hour crews? That would have, what, about 4 or 5 people on per crew? Is that right?
No, you'd have 4 on one crew and 3 on another, unless you called one guy in from the
Well, I guess
park.
what I'm thinking is that in the case of needing snow removal, we're using the parks guys as it is. So I guess I'm kind of lumping the parks guys in with the street guys here in this thought process and thinking that you and the 9 others, there'd be 10 of you.
There'd be 10 sometimes, because again, Craig isn't always here. He travels a lot and wants his daughter to play college basketball, so he's not a
Okay.
good.
So we'd have the 3 parks guys assigned, say, to the days, 2 other street guys assigned to the first shifts, and then the 5 other streets guys assigned to, say, the second shift. How feasible do you think something like that would be, and would it save us money in overtime costs operating like that?
I personally don't think it's feasible, because if you only have 5 people, you're not gonna get anything done. 5 people in 79, you're gonna have to make probably 3 trips. And by the time you get to the 3rd trip, you may end up having to make a 4th trip, because the people have got everything messed up and tossed back out, and then you basically gotta start from scratch. So you're just beating your head against the wall, and you're just going over the same areas, and you still have other areas that still need attention. Because the flat ground, the people should, for the most part, be able to get around. It's just the hills and the nasty curves and stuff like that where you're gonna have your problems. And if you've got your whole crew running 79 and it's taking you 3 hours to do 79, you've got all this other accumulation on the other streets. And so if you send them back and split them up, not only are you not gonna have the time to clean them and get them done, you're not going to be able to keep them clean and then have to come back to 79 again, and then everything else is going to build back up. To me, it's just not feasible. Because we've tried it before when we had 11 people, and it just didn't work. That was 15, 20 years ago. It just didn't work.
But this is how Newark does it, basically. If they
Yeah.
need more people, they call them in on overtime.
Right.
But they just run these shifts.
Yeah.
So,
I think that if you have a lot of snow or a lot of snows in the evening or whatever, you never know what you're going to have.
Mm-hmm.
But North's priority, like you said, is 16. Okay. Well, if you get just a couple of snowflakes at midnight, and the police call in if you don't have a crew that's already there, like for North, they're going to call people in overtime. All the time. Just a little bit of moisture, and then with the hills that Newark has in different places and stuff like that, it gets a little slick. They're going to call someone in. So essentially, they were always calling in 3 or 4 or 5 guys overtime
yeah,
all the time.
yeah.
So they made the decision that it was better to have a few guys there all the time, and then if there wasn't the snow, they could do some other things. Okay,
Uh-huh.
But what happens sometimes, they attend their contract, and the way they do it for so many months or whatever, and then they switch over. The problem you get is if you have a real mild winter, then you're paying those guys a shift differential, and they're not getting as much done. And then during the day, when it's nice weather and you like to have a crew do stuff,
Yeah.
the superintendent says,
You
I
don't
don't
have
have
too
enough
many
guys to do it. We can't patch this because we don't have enough guys. This guy's on vacation.
Yeah.
This guy and
Yeah.
then you're fighting the other way.
Yeah.
He said, like, if you do tree trimming, you don't want to do tree trimming. The night crew, you don't want them trimming
No.
trees.
Yeah.
So essentially, you're going to take half your guys. You get trim trees
Yeah.
out of So the only advantage is if you have snow. You get a snow at midnight and you get a snow at noon. You get
Yeah.
a snow at midnight. Snow,
It
you
would be
always-
wonderful
you
if
know.
it only snowed between 7 and 3.
Right.
And
Yeah,
that would
if you
be
can
wonderful.
time-
I'm not sure we can schedule that. Though.
Yeah. My thought for an idea for try to save on snow plowing and stuff is, when you get the snow, you hit the main arteries like they do, you get pre-treatment, all that kind of stuff. And if you, I don't know, do you have a minimum call out, like when you call guys, they get like 3 hours or Heath has that?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's say you do that, you get the main arteries, the hills, that's treated, whatever, and the snow's still coming down. Well, probably in the past, you probably just kept right on going, hitting everything. My thought is, if the flat ground, like at my house, real flat and anything like that, you don't hit that right away. After you've already pre-treated, you don't keep going. Take the guys off the 3 hours. Okay, done. Go home. Do whatever and anything.
Yeah.
And then when the regular shift time starts at 7 o'clock in the morning, you go back out, and hit again and stuff like that.
So you're saying,
And try to reduce.
you're saying like in the middle of the night, say, and I'm just pulling numbers out of the air.
Yeah.
So from say 11 p.m. to 4 a.m.
Right.
you don't do anything. If it snows a foot of snow between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m., don't do anything.
No.
Have them come in at 4 and start hitting the area. Okay.
No, I'm saying a major storm
Because
coming.
if we still have the same number of people out,
Right.
working the same number of hours, just in a limited location, the hilly areas and the main arteries, we haven't saved anything. We still have the same number of people out. They're still working the same number of hours.
No, what I'm saying is, the storms. You don't have anyone in. They're at home, okay. And all of a sudden the weather changes, and it gets to be like midnight. And all of a sudden it's like everyone knows, oh, it's coming.
Okay.
Okay. Well, sometimes you drop an inch or two in that first hour, and then it quits, and that's it. But you got to get that off of there, okay. I'm saying you come in, you hit 79, your Hopewell, go up through Forest Hills, blah, blah, blah. In 3 hours, maybe it takes 4 hours, they hit that, okay? But there's still streets like Colonial and Fieldson are still covered, okay?
Untouched.
Untouched. They never got to them because they hit that, okay? But the snow stopped, it's not snowing anymore. So normally they would have kept going and plowed. So when I would wake up at whatever time I wake up, I'd look out and it's like, man, the street's clear. It's not, I can get to work. What I'm saying is, I might wake up and there would still be that inch of snow or whatever on there and stuff. And then when the regular time, the guys come back in their normal time, they send them home. They plowed from 11 to 2, let's say. They went home and then they come back in at 7.
Okay.
And stuff, and then we pay regular shift time, and they go out and they plow and treat and whatever like that. I may have to drive on crunchy. The problem with doing that is if they don't treat and stuff down there, it will pack on there. And if the weather changes and it gets real cold and icy, then it's stuck there for several days.
Yeah.
And
Is
stuff.
that what you often see in Newark's neighborhood side streets? Things
Well,
like
yeah.
that,
What
that
happens in
type of
Newark is the
situation?
main big plows are doing the main roads like he mentioned, and they won't call us in. So if it snows real bad at 11, 2 o'clock in the morning, 3, 4, whatever, they won't call us in to do the side streets. So what happens is people wake up in the morning, they go to work, they all drive on that and pack it down.
Yeah.
Anything. So all
About
of a
how
sudden,
many inches of snow could be on there?
1, 2, 3 inches, something like that,
Okay.
maybe 4. So all of a sudden that gets all packed down. Then we come into work and they say, "Oh, take the trucks out, plow the side streets." We put those blades down, and all we do is kind of like I call it the Zamboni, because all we're doing is just smoothing in the ruts that everyone made with the snow. We aren't really peeling. Now we have metal blades in our small trucks. If we can get down and hit the asphalt, then we can start peeling. You can see it really going to town and peel it off. But all the big trucks have the rubber blades on them, so the big trucks won't take off. Now Heath uses metal blades,
That's what I was going to say. We use the
and we
metal
could probably
blades,
peel
right?
it back up.
If it's packed down, our metal blades will ride right
Yeah.
over top of that, just like you're driving on
Yeah,
ice.
until you
and
get down.
And it takes forever to try and peel it up. And then if you happen to get a bare spot and the blade catches, it not only breaks over, but it shifts the truck over in another lane of traffic. It's you got to be on your toes, because you either have to stop real quick or be able to pull the plow up and then turn the truck to get back out of the way, because it just does it.
So I better understand what Tim is describing now. So Dave, let me ask you this. If we were to operate as Tim is describing, would we not have to call as many people out to work, or would we call the same number of people out to work but have them work less time?
It would be the same number of people working with less time.
Okay, so that's where you would save money.
And that's,
As long as it doesn't snow
Yeah,
between
right.
then, when you send them home in
Yeah.
the morning, because, maybe Norton makes no consideration of schools at all, but we start getting calls, so
Well,
I'm just saying
yeah.
that's gotta be a consideration, because if we get called out at 6, there's no way we're gonna have things ready by the time our superintendent has to make a decision
And,
about
and
school.
that may very well be the case.
Yeah,
I mean,
and that
again,
would have-
this is the paradigm that we now have, this is the prism that we now need to look through. We do not have unlimited funds to throw at this snow removal problem. And so we need to do what we can do, keeping in mind, we cannot spend as much money on doing this as we have in the past. Because, I already think the street department operates at a skeleton crew. All right. Now look, the easiest way to make sure you're saving money is to lay somebody off in the street department. But if we did that, guess what? You're still not going to be able to provide the same level of service that we have in the past, because we're already operating at a skeleton crew level. To eliminate one more person would still create the problem of us not removing snow and ice in as timely a manner as we used to. So, we might as well, like I said, that's the reality that we're facing. Whether it's with the same number of people doing it a different way, whether it's fewer people trying to do it the same way we've done it, the end result's going to be the same.
You know, if you go up Irvingwick and down Heath Road, every side street in there's no buses that goes in, and they're not very long. So, for those guys, if they kept Heath Road and Irvingwick clean, I don't think they should even worry about, like, Whispering Pines. You don't need that plowed. It gets slick, but these same guys that say, oh, you do, they're over in Newark going on these slick streets, so why not drive? There's no buses comes down my street, there's none comes down Conway and all those, and it's hard to plow those because everybody parks on them,
mm-hmm.
So I'd say that's a way to eliminate some too.
Well, it is a few. You look at the Southgate edition and Tim's neighborhood on the other side of 79. Bus routes go all through that area, right? It's all the streets. There's buses running all through there.
It's really a matter of the amount of snow and when you get it, but sometimes the worst snows are those little half-inchers that just make it slick as, they're actually worse than
Do
if
we
you get 8
typically
10
handle
inches.
that type of thing with the brine, Dave?
It's not enough to plow.
Yeah.
it's not enough to plow, but we normally handle that with both the rock and the brine. We do all the main streets with the rock, and then we go through the additions with the brine.
Okay.
The brine takes it off right now. The rock takes a little bit to work, but it will last longer. You get a more of a lasting residual with the rock than what you do with the brine.
And I'll tell you the one place too, Dave, is right there on Linville. When he gets about a half right there, that curve kind of goes up the hill right there by my driveway. Just after they go by my driveway, forget it. They're not going up that hill unless, you've done something with the street, that's all there is to it.
If we change things, and I've told the mayor this, we've had our little talks about it. We're going to have a criteria for everything we do. The police department's going to have to know whether they're supposed to call us out.
Currently, the police department calls out the street department, right?
Yep.
It starts getting bad enough.
So
they
there's got
call
to be a
out.
criteria for us, like, well, not supposed to call us out, then they're going to have to know that, Or if it gets so bad, the guy calls out soon enough, we can get things done before people start going to work. Because if Blue Jay Road gets bad,
Forget it.
nobody can even go up or down that.
And that
road.
makes us included.
Yeah, because we got people coming in from out of town.
Well,
So-
I'm talking street department.
Yeah, they can't get up,
If you
right.
got cars going up and down the street, I can remember back in
We have to back
'87
up.
when we had the big snow. I took a plow truck in between two cars off the road that I only had a half inch on each side. But I had to get up the hill because Smitty was stuck up in Forest Hill, so I had to go get him out. And it was one of those deals that, it was just one of those things that you had to do.
Or it gets bad enough, we back up, throw water down.
Well, that's,
We've done that too.
we've done that before too.
Back up this,
Back up the
Yeah.
hill, because the water's down, it's giving you traction.
Well, is it really feasibly possible for 6 people to sit in a room and guess what we're going to do on the left? I mean,
You're right.
that's true. Yeah, it's true. I mean, we can
Each
discuss
storm
it,
is-
and we aren't going to make a steadfast policy on how we're going to handle a street when we get a storm.
Right. I would only say is let these guys, like, if you know you got it handled and stuff like that, I mean, maybe in the past it's like, let the guys stay and just stay through the shift. It may be a time where you have to say, you know what, the storm's lessening up, we don't really need you. Send a couple guys home a little earlier than you normally would have, just to try to save a couple bucks on overtime.
Can we do that,
You
Dave?
know what I mean? Once you hit the minimum. I mean, I'm saying,
Do we do that, Dave?
Yeah, we can, and usually what I try and do is if we've worked all day, I usually try and go till midnight, and I try and get everybody shut down. And if the storm's still going, then I have us back out about 4 o'clock, so that gives everybody a little bit of rest, because unless you've got traffic out there, traffic's not gonna help you with rock salt if you're putting rock down. And if you don't have any traffic out there, you're just beating your head, sometimes it's good to get out and plow and get it said and done, but each storm is different, you gotta handle it a different way. But most of the time, the last 2 or 3 years that I've done it, I've tried to get them out of there by at least midnight and get a couple, 3 or 4 hours rest before we have to start back up between 4, 4:30 and 5.
But with that strategy is when we've had complaints with Blue Jay and 79 and the superintendent, to be honest. Because again, but I'm only saying what has occurred in the past.
Yeah.
So that's, he and I'm not saying we do anything for anybody, but they make a decision at a certain time, and then they go from there. So I'm just telling you what past
Dave, how about
practice.
this? Are you have you in the past, if you've started work at 4, let the guys go home early in the afternoon if the storm has passed, and to avoid cost?
Didn't Smitty try to do that one time, and then
You
it
still have
was
to pay them probably.
Yeah, well, the way it's set up, if they go home early and you say, well, you've worked your 8 hours, you just can't come up and change your work hours at the drop of a hat.
because then you get shift differential
Well,
on that, and then
that's only if you do a second shift type deal, but if we get called in at 4 in the morning and we work and get everything cleaned up by 2 o'clock or whatever like that, normally we just stay till 3:30 to finish out our shift. But if it's one of those deals that you get called out at midnight and you work until 9 o'clock in the morning, get everything cleaned up, if you decide to send somebody home, you could possibly get a grievance because you're changing the work hours. You've got to have a certain amount of hours ahead of time before you can change your work hours. And if you send them home, they could always say, well, I went home sick, and then they're going to get sick. They're going to get sick time over top the regular, so you're still paying the overtime.
Okay.
I think,
All right.
I think really what needs to be is, just that that we're, trying to do the best we can, and I know you guys.
And it's got to be more than try. I mean, we've
I still say we're going to have some criteria. If you don't want us to plow side streets, then you're going to have to come out that. You're going to have to tell the citizens. I think you're going to have because we're going to get 1,000 calls, and we're going to have an answer. So the answer's got to be, well, we have a new policy now. This is our policy. We don't plow these streets if we have to spend overtime doing it. I mean, I think we have to have some guidelines to follow.
I agree.
I mean, you agree with that or not?
Yeah. Well, I assume you already have. You probably have major roads that are the definite ones that get cleaned. You have them ranked. I mean, like 79 is a top priority. Blue Jay top priority.
13 Hill.
Usually, any
or-
hill is a
Irving,
top priority, so that's mostly the east side.
Irving, Work, and Hopewell.
Except for the additions, but I got a guy that He does the mains. He will do Linville, Blackfoot, Blue Jay, Watson. When he gets done with that, he comes over this side to help people over here. I got a guy that, with the big truck, he will do all 79. He will also do Kaiser. He does James Parkway. I've got another guy in one of the others. He does Franklin. He does Irvingwick East, Irvingwick West, Heath Road, Keller, Thornwood. And that's just 3 trucks right there. All the other tankers, they split off and go in the additions. We try and get the additions done, especially the ones with the hills. And then once we get everything done, then we usually come back, regroup, figure out what we want to do, and then we start all over again and go from there.
And that's when he
Depending on-
regroups, that's when I think
You don't hit it again.
you don't hit some of the flat areas again and stuff.
Right.
Those are the guys that you can say
Yeah.
can go home and,
Right,
and
you
whatever.
could leave Southgate alone, you could leave west of 30th, you could leave the side streets on Heath Road. You just
Stuff like that.
concentrate on the mains and on
Unless it's during the day. If it's a regular work day,
Yeah.
then they
Yeah.
can hit it all. But if it's at night or overtime hours, that's when you say, let's hold back a little bit. Unless it's a major storm, you know what I'm saying? Then it's,
They can't,
everybody.
everyone drive in the street or
Right,
something like
yeah,
that.
then you have to. But if it's just a normal, inch or less snow, forget it.
This, I know it's with the street department, but I think Mayor, you're as the safety director of the city, and Bob, as street department superintendent, and I think really needs to be to where, we set and if we need to have some criteria what we're gonna cut off and what we're not gonna plow, that be decided, and then you guys know it. And, if it happens during the daytime, we can do some of the side streets, we'll do it, when we're not having to pay the overtime, but I just think that, it needs to be a criteria that's set up that's my feeling.
Well, supposedly the low priority streets would be subdivisions that are flat.
Right.
That we could, if we do hit them once, we don't continuously go back to and see
right.
pavement.
Yeah.
Like we've
And-
done in the past.
And it's not unique for other areas.
Right.
Unfortunately, because of our revenue strain, it would be unique for us. And that's a shame. But,
But it is what it is.
well, champagne tastes on beer budgets only get you so far.
That's right.
I do think when we make some kind of decision, then we do need to inform, and maybe we could put a mailer in the water bills and keep the superintendent in the loop, because, I think Heath's been one of the last schools to cancel, and it's because we've done such an excellent job with the streets, and that may be changing. We may be right along with the rest of the schools, just out of
Yeah, they
necessity.
only get so many days. I think they cut those back a few years ago, so you may have to judge.
I think it's down to 3.
Boy, it's not that bad. Yeah. You may have to.
And again, there may be a lot more
Reevaluate.
2-hour delays. But
I think that's what.
Well, that's partial understanding of what we can do and some things that we can tweak that, but I don't know if you want to do some kind
and
of.
Dave and Bob, we can sit down and try to hammer out details on this. But I
Just to know
think
that-
everybody understands the concept of you can't continue to have the expenses in snow removal that we have in the past. Something has to change.
One good thing is salt's come down $20 a ton.
Yeah, that's a good thing. I mean, that's the good news.
We are
We've got salt. We've got salt coming on our ears.
Yeah.
So that's
We're not buying any salt right
The
now.
bad part about it is,
We should sell the salt.
That investment didn't do well.
Another way to look at this too is we need to keep the roads clear so that people can come to work and people can, still shop and spend money in Heath, because if we make it where you can't move around, then you have people getting laid off or not working and they don't get a paycheck. Well, then the amount of income tax money we get comes down. So it's kind of like self-defeating purpose. Yeah, we saved a few bucks on overtime, but yet, if 100 businesses are shut down and no one comes to work that day and they don't get a paycheck, we probably lose more money in income tax than we would have had we, had a full crew overtime working. So, you gotta.
Shutting the city down, I think unfortunately, we can't be a Champaign city,
That's right.
but we do need to move around.
especially in the main.
Yeah.
or-
I'm just
which is
saying,
what you're talking
yeah,
about.
I'm talking the main
Sit in
roads,
the
the
room
main
in
or,
November,
I
you
think-
know,
decide when
I
we're
think
gonna
that
plow
travel
them.
roads have to be kept
I
clear.
think that the criteria Dave talked about of what they
Don't
hit
want
Yeah.
people
primarily
running
get
that
right
far.
after to begin with is, the main areas that really need to be. He
Yeah.
knows where in the heck we need to send the people, and he's sending them out, and he's got them dispersed the way they should be, but these lower areas or areas that are, off to the sides or whatever, we just maybe not hit them. And
No, and the,
Probably gonna have
the
to hit them
streets
once,
are
Yeah,
make
hit
sure
them
they
once,
get
don't
through,
do
but
it.
not continuously go back.
Yeah.
because, of maintaining, but they've also cut down expenses. Cause I can remember in years that on Marin Lancaster Drive, you had a conga line of snow plows that haven't helped you if you try to get out of your driveway, cause they're coming and then turn around and they're coming the other way. And,
Yeah. Oh,
I mean, they did a wonderful job.
yeah. Oh, there's no doubt. I mean,
Oh,
there's
they
no doubt.
still do.
And not just in the street department, all of our departments have, over the years, done what can be done to keep expenses in check. And like we talked about the past few months, we've reached the point where further efforts to keep expenses in check are going to impact services. And we'll talk about that too when we get to the parks.
But cut down from 10 years ago, you got numbers down and it's been an ongoing project.
anything else, Bob? Street department will adjourn at 6:15.
I'll go through
Thanks,
these.
Dave.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Dave.
Appreciate it.
I'm always out of order.
He's out of order.
All right, we will call Parks
Thanks, Dave.
Recreation and David Shea to order at 6:16. Now, Bob.
Okay, I can go through these quick and then the mayor can talk about some of the things we're talking about in the parks. If you did notice, though they were a little late, we kind of thought of it later. We should have had them out for election day, but we had them out for Veterans Day. So, we'll try to continue. But what we had to do is, because of the improvements on 79, some of the brackets we have wouldn't fit on some of the other poles, and then some of the brackets were gone. We had went and take some of them down, but some of them, they were taken down before we ever got there, or we were told. So that took us a little bit of time. But the flags are up for Veterans Day, but we'll always try to have that for election and Veterans Day from now on. There will be Christmas banners on 79 on the islands. There's 4 where you can hang banners, and you can hang 2 banners on each one. There's a total of 8 banners. They will be up either.
Now, there's 6 poles, 2
there's
banners
12?
per.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
they'll be up tomorrow or Wednesday. And there's 4 different sets of them, or 6 different. I don't know what it is. So they'll be up tomorrow or Wednesday. I have graffiti in tunnels. We're still battling graffiti, and when we do, it's an expense for us if we try to get that stuff off. The tunnel at Licking View Drive by the high school, they make those walls where it's easier. They're supposed to be graffiti proof, yeah, right, but it's easier to get them off. Compared to some grainier surface where it gets in between there and it's almost impossible. But still, you have to try to get off, and if you can't, you have to paint it, and that paint's not cheap. So it's an ongoing expense to keep us graffiti free as good as we can, and we let it go as long as we can until we start getting calls, and then it starts to happen. So that's always, I guess they did catch some kids.
I'd rather have you plow my street than get the graffiti off.
I'll send you the calls of the
the
mothers
prioritization.
that they don't like what's on the walls then.
Close the tunnels down. You can't see it.
You know, it, what the hell?
That's always the what we do. We're going through the parks, winterizing everything we have in the parks, and that includes the fountains and different things we have within the parks. And then Craig goes over the pool probably every 2-3 days and bumps the pumps. And if you don't bump the pumps every so often, they can freeze because some of that doesn't have any heat. And he pumped a few pumps a day, and we got one pump that totally doesn't work at all, so we're gonna have to replace that pump. So we're in the process of getting that for next year. But it is an original pump. It's in the new, so that makes it 10 years old. And we had to replace one of the pumps in the old filling building that we just replaced a couple of months ago. So continuing to do some work at the pool on those things. So when those things go bad, it's not a cheap. It's 1,000 to 1,500 to 2,000 max, and you have to replace some of those. So, but we try to do the best we can. Mary, you want to go into?
Yeah. Bob and I have been talking over the past couple of weeks about ways we could save money in the Parks and Recs department. Last week, there was a Heath Community Arts Council board meeting, and I notified the Arts Council board that starting next year, the city will not be co-sponsoring any events that the Arts Council puts on. No helping to pay for advertising, no tent rental. The city will not be co-sponsoring any events that the Arts Council puts on.
The contract does say, Mayor, that we're supposed to do four events, but it doesn't have a monetary figure on there. So there are things that if they do, it could be maybe labor during the day or something that would help with some things. But
Yeah.
as
Well,
far as funds go,
the management contract with the executive director reads that the executive director will help to host at least 4 events. If the city doesn't want the executive director to do that, I doubt that is breaching the contract. I mean, this was a service that the executive director is to do for the city. If the city doesn't require that service, that's not breaking. I would argue that that's not breaking the contract. We're not going to sponsor the Tri-City Bike Ride. We're not going to spend any money on that. We're not going to spend any money on Kids First Fest. We have a couple of different challenges as it relates to Star Spangled Celebration. First of all, we have the contract on the fireworks. Those are 3-year contracts. Okay. We raise money from local businesses and individuals who donate money to help offset the cost of the fireworks. But in recent years, those donations have not equaled the cost of the fireworks, so the city has been covering the difference in the cost. We have expenses in the parks budget for that event, including the purchase of the ice, the rental of the porta-johns, just in general, I think getting the park ready. We also had expenses in John Broth's budget for Star Spangled Celebration. So there's the money issue is at play with Star Spangled as well. But even more concerning than the financial aspects. I don't think many people know this. That event is completely volunteer driven. And they start meeting, January, February, to get ready for that coming July's event. The Star Spangled Celebration Committee has seen its ranks decline over the years. Other people, new people, have not stepped up to volunteer to help put on the event. And those people who are putting on the event are getting burned out. They don't want to do it. Just because, not that they don't think the event's great, but they're getting burned out. So as it relates to the Star Spangled Celebration, we've got 2 challenges. Number one, it does cost general fund revenue to put that event on. More than what most people probably have known. Oh, the other thing, we got to pay overtime in the police department too to have the police officers handling traffic control at the park and getting out of the park, and they're on 30th Street and everything. So we've got overtime costs there in the police department. So we have the financial aspect. Then we have just the people aspect, having enough volunteers to organize the event and put the event on. We're seriously challenged in that aspect as well. We could have money coming out our ears, but if we don't have, I know I used that analogy twice, Ken, so don't make me look like an idiot, like that's the only thing I know how to say. We could have all the money in the world. How's that? But if we don't have volunteers to put Star Spangled Celebration on, it doesn't happen. We can shoot the fireworks, but we won't have the festival in Geller Park that we've had for 15 years or so. So Star Spangled Celebration as an event is at a crossroads. I would dearly love to see a dozen Heath residents step up and say, hey, I find value in this event. I'm willing to spend my time and energy to help put it on. If we see that, then because of the popularity of the event, I could see where for next year it would justify the expenses. So I'm not saying tonight that Star Spangled Celebration is canceled, and we do have an agreement, a 3-year agreement that has 1 year left on it, 2013, for the fireworks. So we can shoot off fireworks. But because of those two big challenges, we may not have the gala in Geller Park that we've had in the past. So I'm just, kind of making you guys aware of that. So anyway, we're going to do the softball program at Geller Park because it makes money. We're going to do the sand volleyball program at Geller Park because it makes money. And as far as the Parks and Recs department's concerned, that's about it. Including, as I said, as it relates to the Shea House project, the city will meet its obligations that we have in place with the lease, with the Arts Council for them to operate it, and that we have with the management contract, which we know that's going to save us more than half in payroll expense of what we were looking at here in 2012. Starting next year, that'll save more than half. So we'll meet our obligations that the city has. But as far as helping to sponsor programs, helping to promote programs, helping to offset expenses to have the programs happen, I've notified the Arts Council that we're not going to be able to do that.
Mark, I think somehow we need to get the word out to the citizens about volunteering for that organization, because I doubt that they even realize how it's planned.
We put an insert in the water bill last year asking for volunteers for Star Spangled and something else too. Maybe it was Kids First Fest.
Yeah,
Kids
First Fest.
Jenna did not, John Groff did not get one response. I mean, not one.
It's been running on autopilot for 15
Yeah.
years.
Yeah, these things don't just fall out of the sky
People have this
and
perception
happen.
of, well, it's gonna happen.
15 years ago,
Because it always has
I
been
was
there
on the
and they
park
just
board.
don't realize
and
what
when
it
the
takes to
idea
make it.
came up about Star Spangled Celebration, it was not designed at that time that the city was going to pay for the thing. And because of financial situation, it ended up that it was kind of a city financed thing. It wasn't designed 15 years ago that the city was going to pay for it. So we need to get back into that boat.
Yeah.
And,
You can't get
you
back.
know, and you're right, people aren't gonna do it because
You know, the service
Same thing.
organizations, a number of service organizations have always stepped up over the years to help, you know, Heath Sertoma being one of them. They help park cars for the Victorian Christmas event. We have, what, Bob? 2,000, 2,500 people come to the Victorian Christmas event. We have, I bet you, 4,000 easy that are at Geller Park alone for Star Spangled Celebration, let alone the folks that park in the mall parking lot, you know, to watch the fireworks or watch them from wherever else. People on those streets have their parties at their houses that their friends come to, you know, on those streets that go back toward Geller Park. We probably have 5,000 people easy, you know, enjoy the fireworks that we do and that kind of thing. But these kind of things don't fall out of the sky, and they're not free.
I don't see why your mall and your Cross Creek Shopping Center and a lot of those businesses don't step up for this, you know, celebrations in July, because they're the one that makes the money.
we haven't had to. We haven't
We haven't had a present.
Yeah.
Hasn't been
Let
an
them do it, you know,
They're probably
do it,
giving us
and we'll
money
put on the
towards
fireworks.
through the years, though.
You talked about we're not covering the cost of fireworks. There were many years in better economies that I know we had a surplus of donations, more so than what we needed for fireworks.
Now, next
Those
year,
times have changed in the last year.
for next year, you know, we had a number of donations for the fireworks. Of course, we couldn't have the fireworks. It was different with the power outage thing and then the Labor Day storm or whatever. So we had to pay, I think, a portion of the amount for the fireworks for this year. But we have money left over that we didn't. And we'll hold that money and we'll apply that toward this year's fireworks. We'll bring in, you know, try to bring in some more money to help offset the costs for the fireworks. And you know what? If we end up having more money than what we actually have to pay for the fireworks, I'll see if they can, you know, throw a few more on the truck as they're coming over to, you know, set up. But so for this year, but I'm, you know, like I said, even without the financial angle, we gotta have people to help put this event on, or it can't happen. It just can't. I mean, Jeff's been involved with it for a long time. Tim through Sertoma 2's been, you know, Doug's parked cars there. You parked cars there, Deb, and you guys know how many people it takes to make it the really nice event that it is. And we don't have those people anymore. They're and the people that we do have are burned out. Yeah, they're burned out on it. They want to see some
We never
help.
knew how big it was going to be either. I mean, even the first year we weren't prepared in the parks because we had a regular trash bin there, you know, and the next thing you know, we got this giant mound of garbage. It's like, I think we need a bigger garbage. Yeah, so now we get one as long as this table, you know,
Yeah.
for the event, you know.
Yeah.
So
It's a wonderful event. I want to see it continue. We've got financial and volunteer challenges, serious challenges, to being able to pull this event off and continue as we move forward.
And it's such a moneymaker for so many different
Oh,
organizations. And
Yeah.
I
It's a
run
wonderful for the
year.
nonprofits. It'd be a loss for them, no doubt.
There's been many nights, I'm guessing probably the 23rd of January would be about the first meeting.
Yeah,
Okay,
you're probably right.
Probably a Tuesday or Wednesday night. And we'll be in here, the snow will be flying, the plows will be going up and down the road like we're talking about. We'll be sitting here talking about sweating our butt off on the 2nd of July. And but diligently planning out all the things that make it happen. And make 5,000 people show up. It's, because you've done it for 15 years in a row, some of these old pros, they know who to call, what to do, and who can carry the ball on certain tasks.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, they need replacements. It needs to be transitioned soon.
yes.
Back to the businesses, they really need to be visited, and it takes the weight of somebody like you, Mayor. But I know Target was at the animal shelter with employees that wanted to volunteer. So
We've had some. Park National Bank's been great over the years. Giant Eagle's been very helpful too. Over the years, there are a few that step up and do that kind of thing.
Giant
but
Eagle sponsors Pickerington Music in the Park over there. So,
and that may need to be something that we look at for that event to help with the financial angle. Visible corporate sponsorship, Star Spangled Celebration hosted by blah blah blah, whatever. Where very visible, where it's the business easily sees that their advertising, because that's basically what it is, that their advertising dollars are benefiting them. That still doesn't solve the volunteer issue, but something like that. And I know that the Star Spangled Committee in the past has been they don't want it commercialized. I mean, they don't, but it might help bring in.
I know John doesn't want it commercialized, but business is ready, willing, and able to pay for it. It really needs the focus needs to be turned a little bit to you got the people focus on making a few dollars, whether it's
change.
right.
Yeah.
You got to focus on making some money from it, and it can perpetuate itself.
But again, Dwayne, the issue is if on January 23rd there's 3 people sitting in this room, then you could have $50,000 donated.
I think 6.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's a two-pronged problem.
Yes, I understand that, but I think if you work with the businesses, they can also get you the people, because people will volunteer over there, especially for a project like that where it's not only community oriented, but people can make money off of it, and it needs to be focused that way a little more. And with the focus of money, the concessions, so forth, you can make money off just the concessions coming in per spot. I mean, look at the Granville 4th of July. Kiwanis puts it on. It pays for all their donations all year long. It's their one event. That's all they do. Basically, they play with maple syrup and other stuff on the part-time, but they focus on an event like that. July 4th usually makes Granville Kiwanis some darn good money. So, it's there. You've got the people coming already. You just need a little focus on raising money. Because even if you raise the money, you can pay for the help if you can't get the volunteers. But I think you can bring the volunteers from the businesses too.
Charge them all the park.
I don't think we can do that in a public
You
park.
could ask for donations, but I think you get to charge me for that.
Millersport Sweet Corn Festival.
You
paid
could
a
have
park.
someone
That's it.
sponsor the Porta Johns, and then they can hang a sign up, come do your business with us.
Hey,
We'll make the sign.
There you go. Well, I think that's all I got on that.
Anybody else have
Got a honey dipper in mind?
any other questions or comments? Well, that's fine. If nobody else has me, I'll let you want to ask.
I'd just like to say one thing. I don't know if anybody else noticed it or not, but here recently I've come down through here, and I don't believe there's a cleaner place in any part of the city or any state of Ohio than our yards are around here. I don't know that, did Charlie do that?
Yes.
But it just looks beautiful. I mean, I stopped out here and pulled in to see if I could see a leaf on the ground, and I couldn't find one. And that impressed me. I don't know if it does anybody else, but it just,
Charlie
we
works.
look like a elite place.
Charlie works very hard. He does a good job.
All right, anything else? Tim?
Just one thing, Cletus, last time or one of our other committee reports, you reported on the opening of the bike path out at 40, and you said you gave
nobody contacted me.
Yeah, you haven't been contacted, okay, so there's nothing happening on that, that's all I was gonna check on to see if anything's happening on the bike path thing, so.
He said he'd get back with us. I told him to talk to you also. I said, you're down in Newark every day if you have any. But I think they found out their problem.
Oh, okay. That's all I was curious about.
Okay, anything else? We'll adjourn at 6:39.
Anybody need a break, or can we do into finance?
Why don't you go into finance and we take a break for caucus or run through it real quick and then take a long break?
Okay, who needs that?
Need a gender?
Pennington. Yep. He's a street department foreman, right? That's his, is that Dave Pennington's title, street department foreman?
Yeah. I think it's called super.
Is it superintendent?
No, supervisor.
Nick, what is it?
Yeah, that's really foreman. That's good. They can get that. No, it's not super.
Piece of super.
Printed one too many.
Guru.
Not at the water and wastewater.
Yeah, the plant superintendent's there.
We're going to captains and lieutenants in the parks department.
General.
You want
General pension. General.
General
Geller. General Geller.
No badges?
You've lost control.
You get some stars on your, you get a shirt with stars on your collar.
Call it foreman in Euro. That's
Is that what it is? Okay. Foreman, okay.
All right, does everybody have an agenda? First item, appropriate $11,920 for video server installation of computers and cameras for the police department. Coming out of Brian's committee. Any comments about that? I wasn't at this meeting last week, so. This is
Yeah,
coming
here's
out
a,
of the, what fund, general fund? No, law enforcement.
yeah, law enforcement fund. Lieutenant Mason, I talked to him today. I don't believe the legislation was drawn up to waive the second reading, but we have the equipment in the hall back there. I wanna say tomorrow, the company's coming just to inventory what it was that we got and to schedule installation. So, Lieutenant Mason would like for us, if possible, to waive the second reading on this and vote on this tonight.
And it's on here.
Is it on there? Okay, okay, good.
Any other comments or questions?
Do I need to sign that one still, John?
You do. You do.
I don't remember having signed it. Today's the 19th, is it?
Heath, you on that? All right. Second item. Appropriate $6,000 for promotional items for the police department's 50th anniversary. $6,000 from the general fund. Purchase various items such as group photo badges, challenge coins, adhesive emblems, other promotional material to celebrate and commemorate the Heath Police Department's 50th anniversary next year. What kind of comments do we have on that one?
Well, I think that for me, I mean, although I think it's worthwhile to recognize and to incentivize, you know, the performance that we have within the police department. Some things came out at the last meeting, some discussion that caused concern for me. Chief Huggins was saying that he'd been told in the past he couldn't spend dollars on anything for the officers, and so, and I think one of the citizens, maybe Mr. Wayne, said something about this 50th anniversary for all the city, and so why are we taking $6,000 to recognize one department if we don't have $6,000 for each department? And I don't think we do. I don't know that we have $6,000.
My comment to
It's not.
My comment to Brian last week, because I couldn't attend, was I've got mixed emotions about this. Hopefully he conveyed that, but given our financial plight here, $6,000 in my mind seems like a lot of money. No offense to the police
Right,
department.
I think.
I'm very supportive of the
Good
police
idea,
department.
but yes.
Yeah, and I think that was discussed last week.
Yeah.
But I don't know how it
You
came
know, a
out.
month
No.
before might have whizzed right through, but
Last week, my feeling, the impression I was left with was that rather than have this money be appropriated from the general fund, myself, Chief Shepherd, certainly anybody else that would like to help, you're welcome, that we try to have a fundraising drive for this.
Private funds.
Absolutely, yeah. That was my impression with the way that this was left last week after our safety committee. Is that right?
I wasn't here, but I feel that way too.
Okay.
We table this, we rewrite this, we don't do anything.
If we don't read it, then if there's nothing to
You
table.
could just pull the legislation.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right, just pull
It's
it.
on tonight, it's on tonight's agenda, right?
It's on the agenda.
Yeah, which we don't have to read it. We can just pull it.
Cause how would it work? I mean, if we had the legislative request and then we're saying we're gonna get it from donated funds, I mean, what if we don't get any donations? Then
Yeah.
what happens to the
That was what I
legislative
was saying. I
process?
think to pre-fund it and then ask for money to offset the cost, that ain't gonna work.
It never works.
No.
Never works.
No, okay.
Well, and we've got time, because this isn't something that have to run out on
Right.
January first to buy all this stuff.
Right.
So I think
I think it makes sense to.
just don't present it as the way to go.
Yeah.
We can use $6,000.
Tim, step in, pull it. Just don't
We
read
got
it.
straw pull, I mean,
Yeah,
okay.
we can't even get it out of committee at this point.
Yeah.
Okay. So essentially, it didn't come out of committee, so it never shouldn't have made it onto here.
Yep,
Is that
that's
what
right.
you're gonna- okay.
That's right.
Technically.
Okay.
No, it came out of committee last week.
It came out of
No,
safety.
right.
Came out of
It
safety,
came
out of finance.
not out of finance.
Finance.
Didn't come out of finance.
Okay, moving on. Much smaller numbers, but much more interesting request. $900 for a dog bite suit. $900 from within the general fund to purchase a dog bite suit. This amount represents donations in excess of the monies contributed for purchasing the current K-9 Academy.
So that was donated money
These are donated monies from where?
from people that would put money in to buy
Right,
their
There
own.
was money, when they,
Like the dog cheap.
went after money to buy the dog.
It's like a cheap dog. You get a cheap dog.
Take it easy, Ken.
Okay.
Talk to you
Can't
later.
bite, right? We need to
Family
see.
and so forth.
So we get tuxedos?
So we're sure that this is all mechanical and private.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Can't just duct tape pillows to his arm?
All right, the amount of dimes coming out of the
You want some
general
duct tape
fund.
pillows to your arm and have it go at it?
That doesn't need to be waived, right?
No,
No, I don't recall that.
not a dime is coming out of the general fund for this.
Well,
It
is.
is. Well, it comes out of
The
general
money
fund,
was
but
put
it's
in,
money,
you get
it's not taxpayer money.
Well-
Not taxpayer money.
I'm sorry, what, poorly worded, taxpayer dollars.
Yeah, that's right.
Not a dime of taxpayer dollars is buying a dog bite suit.
Correct.
Well said.
We good? Okay. One of the more colorful finance agendas. Other items, anything else before I call for a motion for executive session? Auditor Alexander. Okay, I'll move that we go into executive session for purpose of discussing personnel.
Who do you need in here? Just council and law director and mayor?
Law director, mayor is fine.
And you?
Or
Second.
And auditor.
First of all, I didn't see any.
I moved second.
December on the list.